Welcome back, folks, to our Wednesday interview show. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. It's going to be about content strategy, how to get traffic to your website, how to make powerful content. And we've got a great guest. He's been on the Roundtable show a few times. That's Adam Fout. And he's from Blue Steele Solutions, which is a leading digital agency in Texas, I believe. Yes. And also Adam's going to be talking at WordCamp Dallas this weekend. Would you like to expand that pathetic introduction, Adam?
Sure, I'd love to. So I'm the Adam Fout. I'm the content marketer extraordinaire for Blue Steele Solutions. So we have a few other writers we work with, but I'm the primary writer. And our website is bluesteelsolutions.com. It has an extra E at the end. My personal website is adamfout.com. And you can find us at Twitter at BlueSteelTX.
I also like to introduce my co-host. She has come back. She's been a little bit ill and dealing with hurricanes and all sorts of things, but she's back stronger than ever. Kim, like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan. I'm Kim Shivler. I'm a technology and communications instructor. You can find me at kimshivler.com.
That's great. And I'm the founder of WP-Tonic. We're a maintenance service company with a specialization in learning management systems. We've got a passion for that. Also, before we go into the discussion, I'd like to mention our sponsor, which is Intelligence WP. And it's an amazing product. I got it on the WP-Tonic website. Tom, one of the founders, walked me through it a couple of weeks ago. It's mind-bending. And it basically, what does it do, folks? It really helps you expand how you can utilize Google Analytics in a way that goes over some other popular Google Analytic plugins which are out there. The base plugin is totally free. It isn't crippled. Go over, you'll find the links on the WP-Tonic website, and I suggest you have a look at it, have a play with it. And also content, Tom, if you've got any questions, he's really very open to doing demos with people and being part of the WordPress community.
Yeah, that's a great plugin too. It's great for writers too. It tells you what content is best and what content's not so best. And it's great for identifying like who your best writers are. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's mind-blowing the amount of work they've done with it, isn't it, Adam? It really is, folks. Go and play with it and it is quite amazing, actually. Mm-hmm. Into the interview, Adam. So, content marketing and how to utilize it really effectively for your business has become a real passion for me. It's a necessity.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to educate myself. And so I've been really looking forward to you coming on the show and us having a good fest about this. So Absolutely. What is the landscape around content marketing in 2017, getting close to 2018? Is it still effective or isn't? HubSpot was the big kind of pusher of this concept. There's, people say it's a public company. Right. They're not, they say that the cost for themselves is enormous. Mm-hmm. What's your views about all this?
Well, I think the idea for it has, you can trace that back, to like Seth Godin and his permission marketing and beyond that, so it's been around for quite a while, which I think that it's easy for stuff like this for people to say they got to get an article out. So they say content marketing is dead, right? That's very common to see that come up every year or so, but it's not, and it's not going to be. The landscape of, and you mentioned SEO. These two go so closely together, right? Hand in hand. You can't do content marketing without SEO and vice versa. And that the search landscape is constantly expanding and changing. You have new things coming down the chute that will have a powerful impact on all of that. And there's just always going to be, especially for certain types of businesses, opportunities, and even for businesses that are, like HubSpot, that have just dominated a corner of the market, that market is going to continue to expand. I read the other day that Google said something like some huge percentage of their search queries they'd never seen before. And what that indicates to me is that, people are becoming more adept at search. They're changing the way they search, especially with voice coming on, with AI becoming relevant. And that means there's going to be different searches, different types of searches, and different opportunities for content marketers to answer questions that are coming up on search and to just create that content. And I don't know, I really get annoyed when people say, well, that you can't possibly create content in this space because HubSpot has created this, or someone else has created this, because they're so big and they've got this huge domain authority. But that's not true. You can write with your voice and in your style, and take a different take on the exact same thing and have an article that becomes popular and that reaches out to your readers. So I think that it's very much alive and well. I don't think the concept behind it is ever really going to become something that people don't like. Inbound marketing, permission marketing, people like that better than ads thrown in their face. And as ad blindness continues and worsens, this is the stuff that's going to continue to work, and it does work.
I thought that was great. So let's really delve into this. This isn't going to be an episode for the beginners, folks, but if you are a beginner to these concepts, we're in the show notes. We have some links to some good content that will help you, like Copy Blogger, Alan Clark. I'll make sure there's some links to things that will educate you. Now, on reflection, Adam, one of the things that I've failed on in my travel down this road is having a real content marketing strategy. Mm-hmm. Now, what does that really mean? And can you give some insights into why it's important?
Sure. I mean, what you usually see and what we see a lot of the time with our clients when we first take them on is there has been a very rudimentary understanding. Not all our clients, some of them are very smart, but there's been a rudimentary understanding of how this stuff works because, most people are not content marketers, right? They're business owners of some sort. They do something else that they're very good at, and they want to use content marketing to expand their reach, expand their business. And, so what they're doing is basically just pumping content out there, but by pumping, right? We're talking maybe once or twice a month. Actually, it's more like 6 times a year. So you're getting very little content put out there, and they don't really know why they're doing it. It's hard for them. They know that vaguely a blog post will do something for search, right? That's about all they really know. They know that Google likes it, right? But they have no sort of strategy behind that content, why they're creating it. And a lot of it is perfectly great content. It's just they have no method and no long-term path to taking, I write this piece of content and put this amount of my time into it, and, which is time taken away from my business. How is that going to turn into some sort of a return in the long run? And with a strategy, you can do a whole lot, and the content with the same amount of work down the road that you're putting in the writing side of things, or the content creation side of things, you can get so much farther if you have a strategy for the content, plus, that has to go hand in hand with an SEO strategy of some sort. If you're just producing content, and you don't have any sort of keyword research, you have no sort of strategy behind how that content's going to be found, no sort of distribution strategy or, social email, all that stuff. If you don't have a strategy behind that, you'll have a lot of beautiful content that just sits on your website that nobody can find and nobody knows about.
Yeah, let's delve into what strategy means. Through my own education, it's really understanding what your target audience is. Mm-hmm. Which a lot of businesses, and on reflection, I didn't either, what your real target audience is, and then really understanding what are some of their key problems and answering in your content those problems. Would you agree with those statements, Adam?
Yeah, I would agree completely. But it can be expanded a lot beyond that. And that's I think a good place to start is with who are the people I'm trying to get, to my business. Who are my customers? Who are the people I want, not just traffic on my website, right? Who are the people that I want to pay me money for things? And getting to know them. But you also have to take a real close, hard look at your brand, and how does my brand align with my audience? Because my audience may have a whole bunch of questions about, let's say I'm a roofing company, my audience may have a whole bunch of questions about, shingles, right? In a residential home. But if I'm doing commercial roofing, that does mean nothing, right? And no matter how many times that question comes up with my target audience, and I have to redirect them and say, well, we don't do that. That piece of content, if I write something about shingles, is going to get more of those people I don't want, right? And so that, even though that is getting me traffic, it's not getting me the right traffic, even though it is a content piece that maybe performs really well for me because I've done the SEO side of things right. If it's not the right traffic, well, who cares? If it's not bringing me people who are interested in my business, if it's not helping me grow my business, it's not useful. So having that strategy in place, and knowing, and I would make this, distinction between, this distinction. I got so excited, I tore my headphones out.
Yes, he's getting very excited. He's getting very elevated. You'll be able to see this on the video, folks.
But there's a distinction between strategy and tactics, right? The tactics are, the blog posts that I'm writing each week or each month. The tactics are, the lead magnets that I'm creating, once every 3 months, or the white papers, whatever the case may be, right? Those are my tactics. But my strategy is what are the goals for my business? There's the brand piece of it, right? And how do those goals align with my customers' goals, right? How do I create what content do I need to come up with that's going to, get people to my website or wherever, content's not necessarily just driving stuff to websites. How do I align those two things, and how do I come up with this, overarching strategy of achieving my goals? So the strategy is like, this long-term plan that's looking down the road and saying, this is why I'm, writing one blog post every 2 days as opposed to one every day, right? This is why I'm doing this. And then the tactic is, what are the individual things I'm doing?
Right. So I just want to see if you agree with all this topic, because what you've just is the tricky part of this, Adam, isn't it? Because this is why it's a little bit more complicated than what a lot of people think, because you've got to meet those things you've outlined. So to broaden out, one of my statements is, yes, problems, but it doesn't also have to be, you have to understand the audience that you're trying to attract. But it doesn't also have to be solely the things you write about, solely about the specific service or product that you provide. You could also talk about other problems that your specific target audience has. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can even, and that's why when someone says, oh, there's all this content in this space, there's no way we're going to get it. It's like, well, there's so many, tangential pieces of content that you could write that are related, that are not directly what you would like to write. We do digital marketing. There are certain subjects that, the big guys have just completely covered, and we're probably not going to beat them on. However, there are many related subjects that we can write about, in plenty. And the same goes for the customers. They have the other side of it that I would point out is, just because a customer has a question doesn't mean it's the right question. Just because a customer, thinks that they need to know something doesn't mean, and you are the expert, right? You may know that that's actually the wrong question, or that there's a better way of phrasing that question. But there are all kinds of ways that you can approach this with content. And I think that it's just so broad, you're not going to run out of content to write for decades.
So let's get back and getting your strategy formatted. Yeah. So basically, you need to go out there, talk to your clients, talk to people in the area, have some idea about your target audience, and then you've got to really get input. Are you correct in your some assumptions about the target audience? And then you've got to do a substantial bit of research about what are their real problems that they're dealing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and then work out some content strategy through that research. Would I be right about that?
Yes, you would be. You're so right lately. Yes, I would say the only thing I would add to that really is the SEO side of things.
Yes.
You know, because when we say SEO, right, it's this huge umbrella term. But when I'm talking about search, that taps into what my audience is doing online and their questions. You know, so it's very important to go out and actually have conversations with people, or, you know, if you're heavily introverted, send them an email or something, but getting to know the actual members of your audience. And as a business owner or, you know, a marketer or whatever, you're going to have plenty of chances to do that and to send out surveys. And even a little bit of data is gold on what these people are thinking. But you can go beyond that, but by doing keyword research in the space, just as an example, you can find out what are people looking for, you know, what are people interested in, what are their concerns. And, you know, it takes practice. It takes a lot of time digging through queries and learning, you know, okay, when a query is structured this way, their intent is probably this. And when it's structured that way, they're probably looking for that. Some of it is just getting to know, you know, your industry and, you know, understanding that, well, you know, just because they used this word, I think they actually meant that, stuff like that. But that helps you to understand your audience as well. And one thing that we do that we really push is the creation of customer personas, which are, you know, that may have been on the list of things to discuss. But the customer persona, well, let's talk about it then, because if I ask all these questions, right? So that gets into the strategy part of it. It's one thing to ask questions and like do a thought experiment. It's a completely different thing to write everything down and keep notes and lists of, okay, you know, these are the queries that are being searched for in relation to my business. And then these are the questions that I've asked my customers that they have answered. And here are their answers, you know, line by line. And I'm going to use that to create a persona, a fake, you know, a fake persona that represents one segment of my audience. So that when I'm writing, and this is where it becomes important, when I'm creating my content, I'm trying to think of who is this for, you know, who is it for, and what question am I trying to help them with? And sometimes it really does have to be, okay, you know, here's my persona. This is, you know, dummy Daryl, who really he's got money to spend and he understands a very small part of what I do, but he really doesn't get certain things. And I'm going to create content that helps him to not be such a dummy, right? And to learn more about my product or my service or whatever the case may be, the industry. So, you know, there's a lot of pieces that go into a strategy that you have to get into place before, because this is stuff that we spend, you know, hours and hours and hours and hours on, because you don't want to even get started if you don't have the right base. Because
it's about having good foundations to your content marketing strategies. Like, you can have the nicest house you love, but if it's got rotten foundations, you've got problems. Yeah. Well, folks, we've just dealt with one of the topics that I wanted to discuss, but it's the kind of groundwork of the discussion. We're going to go for our break now, but when we come back, with the help of my co-host, Kim, we're going to be talking about style guides, how to delegate and automate your content marketing, editorial calendars, and doing that kind of killer research that Adam's just talked about as well. So you can see we'll be covering a lot of content in the second half of this show, folks, and in the bonus content. We'll see you in a few moments. We're coming back, folks. I've enjoyed the conversation so far. I'm going to let my co-host take over for a while. Off you go, Kim.
Thank you. This has been great, and it's brought up lots more questions for me surrounding this. One on the personas. Something I find sometimes with my customers, and I want to see kind of your take on it, is that it's not just about asking them and listening, but really getting to the core of what their true problem is. Because a lot of times what they're telling me they want is not really, it's how they know how to explain it, but it's not really, if I gave them that exact thing, they'd be like, no, that's not what I want. Right. I have to distill it out. So how does that play into what kind of content I should be delivering on my site?
Well, I mean, and those are things that you can, as you're building out personas, that you can determine, with the example I gave of Dummy Daryl, it's not that he doesn't understand what he should be asking. It's just, he's not an industry professional, right? He doesn't work in the industry that you work in. He doesn't know what questions he should be asking, but right away, okay, I need to dig in a little bit deeper here, and using that, using that can help you to create all kinds of pieces of content that, and this is where you can start really getting into the strategy side of things. Like, okay, if I have someone who's, way back here, and they really don't understand a whole lot at all of what they're looking for, I can create a series of pieces of content that help get them from not understanding this at all to this point where I want them, and lead them through that, those pieces of content, create these paths, right? Content paths from, where they're starting, and the question that they have, whether it's correct or not. And getting that, we see that we do some writing for some medical companies, and we see that all the time. People just don't know, they're not doctors, they don't know what questions to ask, and they can sometimes barely describe what's even happening with them. But that there's information they need way down the line once they get that rudimentary understanding of what's going on. And so you can, link from piece to piece to piece to piece. And get them to this point where, okay, now they've reached a greater understanding of it. And hopefully along the way, they've gotten to know our brand, they've gotten to know what we do, and they've decided maybe we can help them.
Excellent. You mentioned the distinction between strategy and tactics, which I thought was very helpful. And you mentioned under the tactics, like your blog posts, your white papers, your lead magnets. When you do a strategy with someone, do you have a formula or some overall idea of kind of how those different tactics should be? I mean, I'm guessing in today's world, we need a little bit of video and we need a little bit of text and we need these different things. How do you approach that when building a strategy for someone?
Well, I mean, from a realistic standpoint, we look at their budget. Content is not cheap to create. But if we had an unlimited budget, it all starts with researching the audience. And for us, like a content creator who's helping someone else create content, that means we're interviewing them, getting to know them, getting to know their business and their industry, and then using that to say, okay, you have these kinds of customers, this is what they're looking for, this is how often these queries are coming up, this is what they're doing in search, this is how much time even they have, how much they can read, and we're going to create content based on that, because you may very well find that your audience just simply doesn't have time to read, right? Doesn't have time to do. But if you're structuring some video content around that, to fill that gap that's really short, you can answer that need, right? So when we go into the creation of personas and so forth, it's not just like where do they live, and the age, sex, location, and all that kind of interests and activities and opinions, and it's not just that information that's helpful, but it's how do they use content, what do they do with the content, what kind of content is most valuable for them, and then you can use that to kind of structure this strategy and determine which tactics are going to work best.
So with it having all of that tied into it, how do you go about delegating and automating that content creation?
Well, and again, that's a very individual thing. It depends on what you have going on. Some people are beasts that they can pour out thousands of words a day, and they despite having worked 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever. So some people can do that, and they don't need to delegate. And that's where the individual work style and of each business is important. Who you have on your team, who you have access to, is important, but, for instance, with us, we have, I know that, I'm good at writing certain types of pieces of content. One of my other writers, he's very good at another type of piece of content. When I can get Heather away from running an entire business, she's very good at certain types of content. Our designer, does certain types. So being able to figure out, it's really just, it's just like regular leadership, right? Who's best at what? And importantly, how often are they able to reasonably produce whatever the content may be, video, audio, written, otherwise, and then deciding, but someone has to be in charge of all of that. Someone has to be, the puppet master and pulling all the strings and know what the overall strategy is, but also to implement that strategy and make sure that people are meeting deadlines, that things are going out, and that's where, you need an editorial calendar so that you can say, okay, this is happening this month, and here's what we do if this doesn't happen, and here's why they're going out. So yeah, and style guides play into that too, right? Heavily. Is it making sure that all your writers are writing in the voice of the brand the way you want them to, and that could even be, there's some, and everyone's individual. There are some writers that we have where it's like, yeah, you do what you do because you're so good at it, and you don't need to worry about any style guide. And then there are other people who I'm like, oh boy, okay, you need to follow all these rules, and then I'm going to look it over, and we probably go back and forth. So it really depends on, it's getting to know yourself, who your writers are, and how best to arrange all this stuff.
What if you are doing it on your own?
Mm-hmm.
Would you still recommend having a style guide to hold yourself to what you want your voice to be,
mm-hmm.
and keep coming back to that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, these tools are not just for other people, and they can be very helpful because, it's easy, especially, I have to imagine, I've never owned a business, but I can see a business owner very easily saying, well, I'll just write whatever the hell I want. This is my business. And that may not always be a good idea. And, these tools can help you to stay not just focused, but to stay disciplined in, what is the message that we're trying to create? Why are we trying to create it? Just because today I feel really heavily, that I want to write about shingled roofing doesn't mean that's good for my business,
Yeah, I love that. I wanted to hear your thought, because I'm very much of like that. I think having a style guide, even if you're solo, helps.
Yeah.
I know for me, it helps me be more conversational, because I did have a formal background in technical writing.
Yeah.
I sometimes come across very didactic, and it also starts sounding like a college professor wrote it.
Yeah.
And then my audience just,
right,
goes to sleep at that point. So
yeah, absolutely. No, it can be very helpful to keep yourself on brand.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Jonathan, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Right. So we used some buzzwords there, didn't we? Like I say, this wasn't for the beginner, but also I don't want to lose a lot of the audience either. So editorial calendar and style guides. Can you just give a quick couple comments about exactly what they are actually?
Sure.
Adam?
An editorial calendar is just a calendar where you're keeping track of what content is being published, where and when and by whom. And it's really useful for visualizing, okay, I know in my head I need to write 10 blog post articles this month, let's say, but how do I want those to be arranged to make sure I'm not hitting people with the exact same content over and over and over? Because there might be some blog articles that are very similar. The queries that I'm trying to answer there may be similar. So that's an editorial calendar, helps you with that, really figuring out the content mix, I guess you would say. And then the style guide is, basically how a list of things that our brand does and doesn't do when writing, so it can be really specific. It can be, we don't use the Oxford comma, we only use contractions. We never spell out it, the word it's or can't or stuff like that. But it can also be, much broader, stuff talking about just how the brand voice generally, and it can be industry specific too, like we would never refer to shingled roofing as shingled roofing, right? We would call it this. So that's what a style, and that's very useful to remind yourself of, what is and is off, what's on and off the table in terms of writing, but also very, very useful when other writers come on to make sure they're not writing something wacky.
I think that's great. I've got kind of one question before we wrap up the podcast and we go on to the bonus content, which you can watch on the website, folks. We'll be continue the discussion for the next 15 minutes because I feel we've just touched this subject and we have to have Adam back anyway. So it's linked to what we said. It's getting guests to post on your website. It's kind of linked to what we were saying about a strategy. So if you're looking to get guests, if you're just solely talking about around your specific product or service and how it solves those specific problems, it's probably going to be hard to get guests because they're going to be your competitors. So if you can talk about other subjects which are kind of related, that your target audience, it's much easier to get guests. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So guest bloggers is what you're kind of talking about, guest writers. Yeah. I don't always necessarily agree that just because someone is a competitor that you're actually like in direct competition with them. There are a lot of businesses, especially in, like in our space, in the digital marketing space, there are plenty of businesses where, we're probably not going to be competing for the, yes, technically we are competitors, but, we're probably not actually competing for the same clients, week after month after year.
Well, it's really also the attitude, I'm pretty easy about it, but it's also I have come across some people that I'm not doing anything with you because you're, you might not, this is a big market, but I just don't work with people that in any shape or form are competing with me. So there's a kind of the mental feeling around it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's everyone's individual, and the way who they're going to feel comfortable with writing on their website is going to differ from person to person. But a lot of the time, the best writers are going to be people who are from, tangential industries. So we have this writer who writes for us every now and then who they focus solely on SMS marketing, right? Text message marketing. And that's something we're never going to do. We're never going to even begin to do. But we have very similar customer bases, right? So, that I'm happy to have this guy come on and that plays too into, my goals for SEO. I need to be building those links, right? And that's guest blogging isn't, what it was, but it's still a good way to connect to other audiences and to get someone on it. Because that's the other thing to think about is that, if you let someone write for you and we're linking back and forth between websites, some of their traffic is probably going to come over to you, and vice versa. So you may actually end up, even though it's a competitor, you may end up bringing on people who bringing traffic over that is ideal that wouldn't have found you otherwise. So you have to, it's a very case by case basis. You have to really kind of be careful with it.
Yeah, we're going to wrap it up, folks. In the bonus content, I'm going to be asking Adam about an interview I saw with Neil Patel when he was discussing some of these topics as well. So that's how I'm going to be starting the conversation on the bonus content. So do go to the website and listen to the other section of this great conversation. I'm going to quickly ask you, Adam, how people can find more about you and maybe what you're going to be discussing at Dallas this weekend.
Sure. So this weekend I'm going to do the beginner's version of this conversation. So we'll be doing content marketing for beginners and, what that means and how to get started. And so that's what we'll be doing at DFW WordCamp. I think that it's 4 p.m. on Sunday. So, but you can find us at bluesteelsolutions.com. That's an extra E in steel. Blue Steele TX is our Twitter handle. And then my website is adamfout.com.
Right, that's great. And Kim, how can people find out more about you, Kim?
You can find me on Twitter at Kim Shivler or at kimshivler.com.
Oh, that's great. And if you need to find more about me, go to my Twitter feed at Jonathan Denwood. Go to the Facebook page. We are going to be starting a Facebook group. Me and Kim have agreed that. And hopefully the panel will be joining us on that group. And we'll be having more discussion with our listeners. We'll give you more details in the coming weeks about that. And if you are feeling generous, I do say it, but we have been getting some reviews as well lately. We're up to 70 plus, I think, on iTunes. So if you can leave a review, it really does help the show. And the numbers are going up again, and I'm just in a more happier place about where we're going with the help of my great co-host, Kim. So we'll see you probably on Friday, hopefully, where we do our round table show. Our Wednesday shows are our interview shows, and I've just really enjoyed the conversation so far with Adam. And like I say, go to the website or the YouTube channel and see the extra part of this discussion. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye. Well, back into the discussion, Adam. So I was watching a really fantastic video with Neil Patel, entrepreneur.com. It was an hour plus, where they were talking really about the subjects we've been talking about. And he was also saying, you know, having links to other people's content is important to his own strategy. And then emailing those thought leaders saying, you know, I've linked to your content. I've just written this great piece. And can you go and have a look at it? And if you like it, maybe promote it. Keep it short and sweet. What do you think of that strategy?
Yeah, I think that is at the root of what content marketing is and what inbound marketing is, which is helping rather than throwing something in someone's face, right? And I think that at the root of that is relationships, right? Is, you know, trying to form a relationship with my audience, as opposed to, here's an amazing deal, go buy it now before, you know, they all set on fire in the warehouse. So that, I think, is an excellent strategy. And, you know, Neil Patel's a genius at this stuff. But, you know, getting links is tough, you know, and getting links is a side of SEO that helps to distribute your content. But it's also forming a relationship with that thought leader, because even at worst case scenario, you've got someone who, you know, it's nice to know that you wrote something and someone linked to it. You know, that warms my heart to know that someone has linked to my content. And so to get an email from someone and say, hey, I really liked what you wrote, so I linked to it. I wonder if you'd, you know, take a look at it, maybe link back, and maybe, you know, distribute it or whatever. I just appreciate you as a person. And that's awesome.
That's why I've linked to your content, because I've read it and I think it adds value to my own. That's so much a better strategy. I get so many people email me out the blue wanting me to plug their plugin or their theme, and they're just asking me to promote for them for free. For nothing, and I have no connection with that person. They're not been on the panel. I know nothing about them. What do they think the reaction's going to be, Adam?
Well, I feel like when you get stuff like that, they're just counting on, you know, statistics. Basically, if I send enough of these, somebody will do it, you know, or it can't hurt to ask. But, you know, be smart about it, you know, and being smart means looking at the relationship first, doing the right thing first, you know, making a hey, I've done something for you. I'm not going to be a jerk about it and like throw it in your face, but I'm just saying I have done this, and it would be really nice if you would take a look at it, and that's all I ask, you know, and most people can get on board with that.
Yeah, because I totally agree. Now, Neil was also talking, you know, you're using BuzzZoomer, maybe Rush, SEO. There's a few where you can look at your competitors. How useful is that when it comes to a content marketing strategy, to look at the competition?
I mean, mostly, honestly, it's useful for ideas, unless you're playing in the big leagues. For most people, it's good to know what they're doing. It certainly doesn't hurt, but more of what you're going to get is ideas of the kind of content you can create. You know, like, oh, they did a whole video series on, you know, concrete flooring. I didn't even think about that. You know, so that might help inform my content. But until you really get in the big leagues, it's not a huge deal to see what your competitors are doing, because, you know, you can write so much else about so many other subjects. There's so many keywords that you can target that are going to be just as valuable for you, you know. So, you know, but now once you get into the higher levels of things where you really are like directly competing on a content level plane, then you need to know what they're doing so that you can try to, you know, outdo them. But that doesn't come up very often. Most businesses that are trying this stuff out, you know, I mean, especially in certain industries, there's nobody writing anything, and most of what's being written is crap, you know, or it's not optimized, or there's no strategy behind it. Someone's just writing, and, you know, there's very little out there. So it's very easy for a lot of people in a lot of industries to just kind of get a basic strategy in line and start going.
Yeah, my response to what you just said is that I agree with it and slightly disagree. I'll just give you where I'm coming
Sure.
from. I think on a local or regional basis, I totally agree with you. I think when it comes to online business in a reasonably competitive area, I think looking at your competition and what they're doing is useful, but with the proviso that you've done some study, you understand the basic concepts of content marketing. Otherwise, it's a waste of time, and you can't make any reasonable deductions from the research. If that's my position.
Yeah.
So we go for that. When it comes to the SEO, so you've done your personas, you've search to understand the problems that audience which you're wanting to engage and get to your website, and then at some stage become a buyer of a service or product you're offering. You then got to link it with SEO, and when that comes to, you know, there's no point in making an article and optimizing if there's no search traffic.
Sure.
Can you give some insights about how you go around that, Adam?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and yes, you're right. If there's no search traffic, it's probably a waste of time, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's not going to be search traffic at some point, you know? And, you know, if you're really tapped into your audience and you really understand the problems they have, and you look at the landscape and see these are the things they're searching for, it may very well be the case that you can predict, you know, okay, no one's looking for this per se, but I bet this, if I write this, it is filling a gap that will eventually get people to look at it, or, you know, it's going to come up in the future. But yeah, I think that, you know, you ideally starting out, you want to target those, you know, high volume, you know, long tail keyword phrases that are relatively easy to break into, and to get that traffic on there. But you also have to keep in mind that, you know, the value of traffic can change drastically. So I might have a query that's only getting searched 5 or 10 times a month, but those 5 to 10 people may be very interested in making some sort of convert. They may convert very easily, right? Whereas I may have another search term that, you know, is a defined term, and it's got traffic in the, you know, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, but, you know, nobody's going to make a purchase based on this. You know, it's really very basic information finding. You know, I'm not going to get, and I've got a lot of people who aren't my ideal customer at all searching this. So, you know, I think you have to think about not just, you know, the volume of traffic, but the quality of that traffic, you know, the quality of that search term.
Now, do you use paid traffic at all to start off a particular piece and that as kind of gasoline on the fire? Do you ever do that?
We don't. I mean, there are plenty of people who do that, and that's can be a very good strategy for sure. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I think we just like to, I guess, do it the hard way. But yeah, no, it can absolutely be a great thing, a great way to kick things off. You know, and to, like, as you said, pour a little gasoline on the fire. But again, you have to be careful with that, because if you're doing it too often, too much, you know, it may not be worth, you know, what you're doing. I mean, we have one client where, that's what we did is we used some paid, traffic to augment them in the beginning when their site had, you know, like 2 visitors a month or something like that. It was brand new. And, now they've gotten, you know, much higher, you know, they're in the 5,000 range a day. And for that industry, that's pretty good. And, you know, it helped in the beginning when nobody knew who they were to get people on there. But it depends on the industry and the content you're producing. Some content, you know, there's nothing there. And, you know, like I have, my website is mostly my fiction and poetry, but I optimized, like a handful of poems that I wrote, and I started getting traffic almost immediately because all the stuff out there for those keywords was crap, you know? So it was really easy with a website that's getting, you know, that was getting no traffic whatsoever to start getting some traffic without paying a dollar.
I'm going to ask you a difficult question here. Well,
Yeah.
I think all the questions are easily, but I'm going to time scale. Because obviously people are in business, they have a limited budgets, they believe in you, Adam, but they're business people as well, and they can't just keep throwing money at something and not get a return. But also they've got to be realistic. And I know this will change from industry to industry, but can you give our tools some kind of, if you do the strategy, maybe you work with somebody like yourself, what are realistic time scales to start seeing some results, Adam?
Yeah. Well, like you said, I think it really is important to qualify that it depends on the industry. It depends on the landscape of the content and the landscape of search that already exists. That being said, I would say, if I'm just trying to give something really general.
It's difficult. I know. I asked.
Somewhere between 6 months and maybe 2 years. And 2 years is a long time, right?
Yes.
And so that's why a lot of it works best for people to be writing their own stuff and learn how to do this stuff on their own, because it is long. It is a long game. But I mean, we've had clients where, in 6 months, their traffic numbers are.
Yeah, I would agree what you're saying. What you would like to see, and I just want to see if you agree with this, because I've made a lot of statements, but I've always checked my statements with you, because you're the expert, is that you want to see some clear progress in 6 months, not only in traffic numbers, but in the bottom line. And most reasonable people, if they can see the trajectory of where things are going, they will keep doing it, won't they?
Yes, absolutely. And that's where, stuff like, digging into your analytics, stuff like intelligence comes in really handy. So you can say, see, this is doing that. This is doing that. This piece of content here is performing very well. So let's go make another one like it, or this writer. And so, being able to dig into that stuff, even in a rudimentary way, and say, okay, even though the traffic is low, that's more of a vanity metric, right? Our conversions that we're looking for are happening when they, and a lot of the time it's a brand new website, brand new business, going from 0 to, even 5 people a month, saying, hey, I want to buy something from you. Depending on the business, can be very valuable and encourage people to continue with it.
Right, Kim, have you got a question or anything to finish off?
I did.
I
did.
That last one just kind of like pulled me in. It was like, one that we did have, but that we really didn't dig into is the strategy for your lead magnets.
Yeah. So I'd love to talk about that. That's where these, your strategy is creating these paths, right? These, I guess you could call them funnels, I suppose. I like paths better. These content paths for people to get from one piece of content to another, to some sort of conversion, right? And generally speaking, a lead magnet is either the end goal of some path of content. And these, a lot of them really crisscross, especially the more you're writing, the more videos you're creating, a lot of them are leading to the same points. These cornerstone pieces of content are often lead magnets. But I think that you have to think about, what ultimately is my goal as a business? Do I just want someone's email address? Is that going to be sufficient? Do I want them to go to a product page and purchase something? Do I want to get them to this page where they're going to get, an email in their inbox and get a coupon and then be able to sign up for a service? So I think it depends on your goals, but lead magnets are just very simply a much more valuable piece of content that you're able to get something in exchange for, as opposed to a free piece of content like a blog post or a video where anyone can watch it at any time. The lead magnet is, they have to, some pay a little bit of money sometimes even, but, give an email or something so that you can turn this person from traffic into an actual lead.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, I think we're going to wrap it up now, folks, for the bonus content. Adam's been a champ. I think we've really had we've covered a lot of territory, haven't we, Adam, in these 45 or 50 minutes. So just quickly, just the bonus content, how can people get hold of you, Adam?
Sure. BlueSteeleSolutions.com, extra E in steel. My website's AdamFout.com, and then on Twitter at BlueSteeleTX.
I think we're just going to leave it at that, folks, and we'll see you next week. Hopefully, give us some feedback. That's what we really like about the type of guests you would like on the show and the topics that you would like us to discuss, because you'd be surprised how hard it is to think of new topics. This particular one wasn't. And hopefully we'll have Adam back on our round tables and have him back in the new year to discuss more about this particular subject, which I'm totally fascinated about. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye.
Thank you.